Recently, Hypixel Skyblock has come out with a couple massive updates. Recently, we have just gotten a brand new Enderman Slayer, and they've also completely removed the aiming enchant. The update everybody's been concerned about recently, though, is the strength nerf. And in this, Hypixel nerfed strength very, very hard to account for people doing exponential damage in the game, and it slowly becoming a bigger and bigger issue. This strength nerf has made everybody globally lose damage, though. Not just the people that are super high level, but everybody as well. Lots of people have been starting to switch their high damage builds to a more even amount of strength and crit damage because they're now equated for the same. Because of this, the Fabled Reforge has seen a new liking again. This is because it has a fairly even amount of crit damage and strength, whereas the Reforge Withered has a very high amount of strength, and because strength got nerfed, a lot of people thought Withered was very bad. And they would be right, Withered did receive a massive nerf, but today we are going to find out if it is still worse than Fabled. Before we do get started on this video today, guys, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. I do work very hard on these videos, and it would mean a lot to me if you guys considered subscribing. Anyways, if you still don't want to subscribe, at least consider checking out some of the other videos I make, and maybe those ones will convince you as well. I'll put some cards later on in the video if you'd like to check out any other guides by me. Alright guys, let's get on with the actual video. Thank you. Before we do get started today, we're going to talk about a couple variables. These variables are very important for you to account for because it will be different depending on the person. Everybody's stats are different, everybody's armor is different. You may not be using the exact same stuff as me. I'm using a very budget damage set, 2 pieces of ancient Necron armor, ancient zombie knight chestplate, and a tarantula helmet. Definitely not the best damage set in the game, but it does work. The next thing I'm going to be using is an epic tiger pet, not because it's the best damage pet in the game, but because I don't have anything else. The last thing I'm going to be using obviously is a Livid Dagger, both Withered and Fabled. There's no real enchants in here that will affect them completely differently on their first hit damage at the moment. The last variable to keep in mind is their bonuses. The Withered bonus grants 1 strength per catacombs level. This is no insignificant number because for me, I get 29 extra damage because of my 29 levels of catacombs. For other people, this will be higher. For others, this could be 0. Again, this is no insignificant amount of number, but you may realize at the end of this video that there still is one definitive Reforge that is better. The next bonus is the Fabled bonus. The Fabled bonus makes it so that you have a chance to do up to 20% more damage per hit. This bonus is sort of ridiculous and makes doing damage tests extremely inconsistent. Really, all there is to do here is just take the average of the hits you're going to be doing. Of course, it is slightly based on RNG, but you'll notice it doesn't actually skew the results all that much. Now, there's a lot in this game that goes into doing damage, so instead of talking over every single logistic about how these Reforges should work, I am going to get straight to the damage test soon. I am, for starters, going to give a couple pointers, though, about how these weapons work. I'm going to be referring to something in this video called damage units. Damage units are essentially crit damage and strength mixed together. This is because they're now equated for the same, but this damage units method isn't foolproof because the equation between strength and crit damage can be different depending on how far they are apart, if that makes any sense. It will, on a general basis though, help you understand how good these Reforges are compared to each other. I'm going to start off by saying, off base Reforges, Withered still gives more damage units than Fabled. Yes, this may surprise a lot of people, but even with 0 catacombs level, Withered gets 135 damage units, whereas Fabled only adds up to about 100 damage units. Even though this hasn't equated in their bonuses yet because these variables are a little too difficult to add into the equation without making it too complicated, the base stats do favor Withered by a pretty significant margin. Now, before I keep going on about these 2 Reforges, I'm going to do a couple damage tests just so you can see for yourself which one of these weapons does more damage. Then I'll wrap up my conclusions at the end of this video and you can see a little bit of why I think that is. We're going to be starting off with the Fabled Livid Dagger because this weapon is fairly inconsistent. I'll also be hitting enemies only from the front instead of the back. You'll see that we did 99k damage, 95k damage, 86,000 damage, 102,000 damage, and 85,000 damage. Now, for this Fabled Livid Dagger, for the stuff I'm wearing, it seems to be that the margin is about 85,000 damage to a little bit over 100,000 damage for that 20% bonus. That is a pretty significant amount, and if we just take the average of those 2 numbers, we can pretty safely say that the average for this weapon is about 93 to 95,000 damage. We're going to move on to the Withered Livid Dagger. and where consistently we will be doing almost 100,000 damage, 99,910 damage to be exact. Now, for my calculations, Withered is a better Reforge. There is still one variable that we got to equate for there, and that is my Catacombs level. My Catacombs level is giving me an extra 29 strength. As a way to get rid of this, I'm going to be taking 2 of my legendary talismans and 1 of my common talismans. This all equates to a total of 29 damage units within these 3 talismans. This right here should get rid of the amount of damage that I'm doing with the Catacombs level, meaning that the bonus for this weapon should essentially be taken off. Again, there is a little bit more to it than that, but it's not going to skew the damage reading that much. And with that, you'll notice that I'm doing 95,000 damage consistently. One of those hits was a back hit, and that's why I got 190, but I'm doing a consistent 95,000 damage. Now, you may actually notice one thing, and you'll say that, hey, 95,000 damage is actually somewhat similar to the number that we got with the average of the Fabled Reforge, and you would be right. These Reforges, believe it or not, are actually both extremely similar in how much damage they do. At the end of the day, I'm going to have to give the win to the Withered Reforge though, and that is because if you have any Catacombs levels at all, this weapon is going to end up doing more damage. It has more damage units, and it will be doing more damage at the end of the day if you have any Catacombs levels. Along with that, this weapon is actually consistent. It's not that big of a deal, but when doing damage tests and stuff, it is more convenient to have consistent damage. Now, it's going to make it a little bit more complicated, but there is still one reason why you may want to have Fabled. Like I said before, damage units aren't a perfect way of measuring how much damage a weapon does, because the amount of damage you have with your strength is then multiplied by your crit damage, which essentially means that you want your crit damage and your strength to be as close together as possible to get the best reading for your actual damage. The only time I recommend using Fabled is when you are using an armor set or a pet or any amount of gear that gives you an extremely high amount of strength and an extremely low amount of crit damage. In this situation, it would be a very good idea to use Fabled because that crit damage will help you even out your strength and crit damage a bit more. In testing though, this difference between damage units isn't extremely significant, and it still gives the win over to Withered even if you have a lot more strength to crit damage. You'll see here my strength is 150 over my crit damage, and I'm still doing significantly more damage with Withered. Also, if you're going for crit damage, I also just recommend that you switch some of your legendary and mythic talismans over to Silky instead of Strong, because then you'll get more crit damage as well. You won't have to take the expense for a little bit of extra damage on your sword. Fabled also costs more money to apply, and as of right now, Dragon Claws cost more money than Witherblood. So unless you've got a ridiculously unbalanced amount of strength, Withered is still the best Reforge on swords in the game right now. I hope this video wasn't too confusing. I know parts of this video will probably be very confusing, but I really hope this video did help you out today. And again, I highly recommend that you guys keep your swords on Withered. If not, switch back to it. It's a great choice, and if you've done any dungeons, it's going to be a better choice at the end of the day. Again, the only time I recommend Fabled is if you've got a super high amount of strength that's unbalanced. And again, I would also just recommend bringing your legendary talismans to Silky. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, I put a lot of hard work into this video. Consider subscribing and checking out my other videos. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.